I don't know what you heard, but anyway, I went to Q&A, and I was working with this issue of impatience and with the unfettering process. And so the idea came up was something like, I don't have time to waste. And the fact that whole idea, that belief arose a long time ago when I was like, I don't know, 3, 4. When I identified with this body that came into the world with a genetic illness that was supposed to kill it. And obviously that didn't happen, but that's the belief that I was raised with, the fear. And so I said something, and Pernilla said, there are 3 levels of delusion there. And I haven't heard the replay yet, but I've been trying to remember, first of all, what I said, because my memory is horrible. And I think I thought of the first 2, but it doesn't matter. Why I'm here now is I realized after that meeting, I looked down and I had on a sweatshirt in bold black letters that announced to the world the fact that I have this thing. And then I went in my closet and I was looking around. It's like half of my wardrobe is from organizations that raise money to cure this thing. And I'm like, holy shit, I am so identified as this body. I don't even know what to wear. Anyway, that's why I'm here, is because that insight or whatever happened. And I know, like intellectually, I know I'm not this thing that I see and seem to feel and seem to see. I know I'm not that, but like deep down there somewhere, I mean, it feels like it's written in my DNA. I mean, it is, but in a, I don't know, in like thought space, it's written in my thought DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's
what
I just want to say one thing, and then I want yeah. The first thing is that I absolutely love that you completely see through that entire illusion of can I say what you have? I know what you have. Is it you haven't mentioned it, and I don't know if there's a reason to that.
No, I just didn't want to make it. I just didn't want to reify it even more. Like,
I understand that. So that perception of what you've been born with, that has been like shaping everything, even to the point that you weren't aware that you were, having T-shirts and announcing it to the world, even to people that don't know you, knows it before you, even open your mouth.
yeah.
And I'm super provoking in what I'm saying now. I would like for you to look into the benefit of that. What is the benefit of that? What is the benefit of, because I have had I've had a lot of patients that had cancer and was anorexic and had issues like that, and they always reached the point where they had to choose to give up the benefit of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's not something that I see is like a huge alarm bell in anything that you say. I just want you to be aware of it, because it has been with you always, and there are benefits as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you're already aware.
I get to be a victim. That's clear.
Yeah.
And it's always been like, that was kind of like, Pernilla, when you in Fetter 2 released the video about your toxic starting points. My toxic starting point was definitely that I can't remember how you worded it, but the way I got attention and love in a family that was so, I mean, there were 3 of us with CF. And my mother was mentally ill, as I would have been had I had 3 kids with CF. Really mentally ill, disabled, so mentally ill.
Yeah.
So it was a kind of, I mean, it was loving, but it was very, there was a lot of depression and a lot of fear in that family. So the way I got attention was when I was sick.
Yeah.
That was, and I got a lot of attention, and it was loving, and it was overprotective, and it was, and that's kind of always been the case. Like I know I've unconsciously used that benefit to as a benefit.
Yeah. So it's just you reflecting in your everyday life. If you are giving yourself all the love and the compassion and the awareness and the attention and the reassurance and the affirmations and all of that, are you giving yourself that so you're not dependent on, you know, having like a flare or having like anything that is, you know, challenging?
I'm starting to,
yeah.
But that's been kind of a slow moving process. And I think the impatience is the part of me that's left that's not giving me much room.
Yeah. Do you know what that impatience is about?
I think it's about thinking I could die at any second and wanting to like finally like be free. It's about freedom and peace. It's wanting to have a sense of peace at last.
Yeah. The first thing I want to say is, yes, you can die any second. All of us can. And you might even be fortunate to be hit by a bus before you die of CF.
I hope so.
But so that, yes, you can die any second. It's not something that is unique to you and your position. We are all in the same boat when it comes to that. It's just that when we have cancer or we have CF or we have anything like that, we are led to believe. We had the talk this week about having clogged arteries and being told you will have a heart attack within the next 5 years. I mean, unless your doctor is God, they don't have that privilege. They can't tell you what the future will hold. And even when they're adding statistics to the game, they can't even say it. There's a 98% risk. Well, you might still be the 2%. So there's no one who can predict anything. And that is actually more scary than when something is predicted.
Yeah.
The whole part that yes, all of us can die in the next second. Yes, all of us, everybody that's here, that can happen to all of us. That was the first thing. What was the other thing I wanted to say? There was another point. What was that?
Well, I don't know, because it was about the short amount of time before finding freedom before dying.
Yes, thank you. You heard it too.
Yeah.
The freedom is here already, right now. It's not something that you are in any rush to. It is already here. And I was wondering, do you want to do an inquiry to that?
Yeah, well, I was actually curious also. What exactly is it that you are expecting to get from the awakening process? Because it sounds like there's a lot of expectation there.
Yeah. Something that that's probably futile. I mean, I think I've been searching my whole life for this sense of peace that would come from knowing something. Like it goes so deep. I literally went into medicine, went into pathology, I did autopsies. My job was to diagnose cancer. Like I was so, every book I had was on death. Like I just wanted to know, what is this thing? What is this thing that happens? And I think it's about the knowing thing. And I know I can't know. Like I know that I will never know what it is until it's here. But I think that's what the search is about.
Do you feel, and tell me if I'm wrong, but from the things that you've said so far, it just seems to be coming up that it feels like even that urge to know is coming from a deep fear of death. Because if there's a sense of certainty about something, it's like if we can know it in some form, then maybe it's a little bit less scary. It's like the
Yes.
monsters in the movies that you see are never as scary as the ones that are only hinted at.
Yeah. It's like looking under the bed
Yeah.
and getting that sense of, oh, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay. It's going to be okay. That's what I've been looking for.
Yeah. And do you feel like you need to have that then before something happens so that you're at peace with the dying process when it eventually comes?
It seems like that's the belief, yeah, that if I know what I'm about to enter as the breath goes out, but for the last time, that I'll have that peace.
And the issue is that, as you said, we can never know anything. And any part of the process of awakening is really, every step of it is a dropping of beliefs or knowing until you just experience what's there without actually knowing anything at all. And that's why the 10th fetter is recognizing that we never can know anything, and it's becoming okay and finding equanimity in the fact that we cannot know anything. But it sounds, from what I'm hearing, it sounds like the issue is not as much that you feel like well, no, it's not as much the actual need to know as it is the feeling that there is still a self who is going to go through the process of dying and is going to die and is concerned about the process of death, and then also what comes after that, if something comes after. Because if there's really nothing after, then all you have to look forward to is peace. There's nothing there to be fearful of or anything. It's the unknown aspect of it that sounds like it's what's causing the fear. And if there's really more than an intellectual understanding that there's no self, but an actual felt experience of it, then there's no fear of death because there's nobody to die. There's nobody to go through it. And you recognize also that you are dying and being reborn moment by moment, because the experience of a self or the experience of Julie going through the world is constantly changing. There's no consistency behind that. And so what you take to be a steady constant Julie who has been, from birth until death, that is just it's a mental overlay that's weaving together all of these disparate moments and memories and thoughts and fantasies, and all of that gets in. And so that's why when we're doing this, we really are focusing on what it is to feel like a self, and to recognize that that is not a thing that is persistent or consistent through time, and that there is nothing there that is going to experience death. And it's also still having the humility of recognizing that, again, we don't know anything, and
Yeah.
we have no idea what does or does not happen after death. It's not having great, there are traditions that talk about having CDs and being able to develop all these supernatural powers, but that's not what we're talking about. This is much more simple than that, and it's much more livable and freeing, in that it comes down to the comfort of not knowing. So where in your experience currently does it still feel the most like you are Julie? We have identification levels with the CF and different things like that, but how do you feel like you are a Julie right now?
Well, that's a really good question. When I think of things that the Julie still has to go through, and I has to, like things I write down so I remember to do them. Like there's still somehow a belief in there that there's a Julie that is going to do stuff, like see through a feather.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even though I know, like, I really do know that that doesn't ever occur. I mean, I can just tell the way things are kind of falling into place with perfect timing and disparate things that have nothing to do with each other, showing me the same exact thing every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know I'm not doing that. But there's also this fear, feels like it is a Klingon onto the idea of a Julie. It's fear, really.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it okay for that fear to be there? And does that fear, let me actually backtrack and ask. So does that fear have a specific function that you're aware of right now? Is there a something specific that is doing?
Well, all my life, I feel like it's that fear that's prodded me all the time, like a drill sergeant, to take care of this body, to exercise this body like a fanatic so that it could stay alive. So the fear has kept me alive at some level.
Yeah. And so you can be thankful for the fear that it was there as sort of your guardian. It was there as a beneficial aspect to your life to keep you, healthy. However,
Yeah.
now as an adult, looking back on these things, seeing where you are now, is it possible to have done those things without having the motivating factor of fear behind it?
Yeah, because now I exercise for fun.
Yeah.
Like it could have been that way the whole time, but in my mind, I think that, but I don't know that it could have been. It's that way now.
Right. It was that way then, and it's perfectly okay that it was that way then. But you recognize now that the fear could also be a superfluous thing that really isn't necessary to make those things happen. It feels sometimes like it is necessary, but now you find you can just exercise for fun, and you're much better off that way. So the fear that you're currently experiencing, obviously that's not the motivation now to exercise, but there is a fear that is present and lingering in your life, right?
Yeah.
And what is
There's,
that about then? I mean, we think there's probably the fear of death angle, but is there something else?
I don't think so. I think it's about fear. Well, there may be some fear of the complete dropping in of the fact that I can't know anything.
Mm.
I get that.
So if the fear of death, or the fear that was motivating the exercise and healthy behaviors, looking back seems rather superfluous and like it really wasn't doing anything. What do you think that fear is actually doing now? Is that a necessary factor in your life?
No, it's like the party guest that won't leave.
So, and
It's not doing.
that's okay. It can be there as long as it wants. Notice your resistance to it being there. Do you feel when you feel that sense of fear, the way you talk about it, it sounds like you're probably not all that thrilled to have it.
Right.
So can we go into, can you bring up something that, if you're comfortable with this, bringing up something that brings up a taste of that fear? And can you tell me exactly what you're experiencing right now with it? Where is it felt?
Right here, like choking.
Mhm. Good. Can you stay with that for a minute? And notice there's a sensation of, tightness, constriction, something going on in the throat. But do you notice any layers of feelings, of thoughts about it? The label of it as fear, the label of what it's pointing it to? What comes up when you're sitting with that?
Ooh, images of
Sorry.
images of hectic hospital patients, just bones in gowns who can't breathe, kind of blue.
So now recognize that the sensation that you're feeling in the chest is just a sensation. Where you feel it in the throat, it's just a sensation, right? You can feel it as constriction. You can feel the raw sensation of that, and then notice those thoughts that are popping up in conjunction with it, and recognize that those are memories, those are images, those are thoughts that you are taking a memory of something else, and then you're projecting yourself into that position in the future. There's this idea that that could be me, you know, there, but for the grace of God go I, as they say. And so that contraction is happening, and these ideas about your possible trajectory in life leading to suffering and illness and eventual death, those are two different things. Can you let those thoughts and those images and those projections go, because none of those are real. None of those are happening right now. If you look around the room, you don't see any of those things. You're just here in your body with a little ball of tension in your throat and in your chest. So can we start to separate what's really happening right now, just being with sensation, from all of the mental stuff that is taking the worst case scenarios that might happen? It's all the things that you've seen. Your mind is saying, I don't want any of that. And this could be my future. And you're getting tied up in these absolute fantasies that, as Pranilla said, you could be hit by a bus before any of that could happen. So instead of creating the sense of fear and torturing ourselves years and years and decades unnecessarily, can you just be with that sensation when it's there? And we're not driving the sensation away. We're just looking at it with curiosity and just noticing that it's there. And notice that if you don't keep feeding it with thoughts about the future and thoughts about the past and what might happen, the sensation is generally pretty short-lived. It comes and it goes. And that's all it is.
Yep. Right when you said it goes, it was gone.
Yeah.
It's back now, but
It's okay.
transient.
I mean, that's okay. It's an exploration that you can do to start to distinguish what's real and what's actually happening in your experience with what's just a fantasy overlay that's being taken to be in some way real. Because even if you know that what you're sensing is just a project, or what you're experiencing is just a projection of a possible future, if it's not really clearly seen as being just that, it still has the power to keep looping you into these feelings of rumination about what might happen, and then feelings of you know, make it, it basically becomes a feedback loop to make that constriction just grow and grow and grow. And then we feel like it's just happening all the time, or it's an ever-present thing, but it's because we keep feeding back into it over and over again. So just keep coming back out of it whenever you can, and recognize.
Yeah, and I'm sorry.
Oh,
And no, that was really good. And I'm also thinking about when you're there where you just went with Todd, where you have the sensation in your throat and you have the thought. The thought is minimizing the experience of the sensation in the body, because you're limiting to fear. That is all we can feel as long as we have a thought attached to the sensation. When you release the thought and just stay with the sensation is allowed to be as it is, and you are allowing yourself to experience it as it is, which means that it's no longer just one thing. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things. It can be cry, you know, sadness that needs to come out. It can be laughter that needs to come out. It can be so many different things. But as long as we have the overlay and the label that says this is fear, we're minimizing the experience and making ourselves way, 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 way smaller than the experience actually is.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, thank you. Actually, it feels, I felt like this, I don't know, when you said that and I felt it more clearly, it suddenly felt really good.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
breathe or something, like it could breathe.
Yes, exactly. And as long as you have the label going, this is fear, then you're not allowed to enjoy it. You're not allowed to laugh. You're not allowed to anything, because this is, it's like, you know, going to a funeral. There's certain rules at a funeral. And it's the same thing when we have a label on. This is how it is. There's certain rules of how we react to a fear. But reality is that whatever sensation we feel in the body, it's not that singular. Nothing is that simple. It's not only fear. It's lots of things. You have had a full life that has been crammed into this sensation you have here. So you need to release the label and allow that full life to be expressed through that sensation here. And whatever I want to do in the body, just allow it to do that in the body.
Okay. Thank you.
thank you.